Hey everybody, welcome to the Smoking on the Gas podcast. I'm your host, John Gus. We are coming to you from the Sauce Pot in San Luis Obispo. I am so excited for our guest today. Everyone in the audience from my past podcast, you owe this woman a tremendous amount of gratitude. As most of you know, I was done with podcasting. I was done with content. And the work that we did together just brought me back to life. Gave me a new vision, new enthusiasm for this new project, and I'm super excited about it. Jessica Otter, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm amazing.
Ready to gas it up?
I'm so excited to be here. First one.
Yeah.
First recording.
Well, I'm excited to have you. For everybody, we're going to own Sundays. That's a challenging day for me, and we'll talk about that with Jess and how she's helped me with that. But just come here, get encouragement. We're going to gas you up. You're going to be feeling good going into your week, and we'll pull some wisdom out of this, and we'll just see what happens. But the crux of this podcast is encouragement, and I'm going to bring guests on that are dominating in their field, helping others, living their passion. And this is for the person that's like, I want to do something. I need the nudge. I don't know who to talk to. So we'll get into that. But Jessica, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Jessica and I have worked together on a couple different projects, including this one, helping me with a lot of mindset, a lot of success. So I like to think of her as my success coach, but I don't want to put words into your mouth, Jessica.
No, you're exactly right. That's how I think of myself too. Queen Bee Success Coaching.
Love it.
So yeah, I mean, I say when you love what you do, when you have passion about what you do, you never work a day in your life. So I help folks who need the tools to go from feeling stuck or overwhelmed or depressed, who are just really like checking off the boxes. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever been cruising through life? I think we've all been here at one point where you're like, is this it?
Yeah.
Is this
totally?
Am I just supposed to check the boxes? And that was me. You know, that was me. And I was checking the boxes and getting validated from all kinds of what we're conditioned to be validated, you know, good grades and money and all that stuff.
Living for other people.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was depressed, man.
How long ago are we talking about? Like years-wise?
You know, I would honestly, I would say when I was a teenager, they didn't really diagnose clinical depression for kids back then, but I would have been diagnosed for sure. And that really extended through my 20s. And I just had a download at a moment where I was like, this is not, like everybody says, are we here to just like work and pay taxes? No.
Yeah.
And I had a download, like there's got to be more, right? Like I just wondered. It's good to wonder, right?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just started educating myself about feeling better.
Okay.
You know, I grew up with a family that didn't know how to communicate, dripping probably in a little narcissism and guilt.
A little bit of shame. All the things.
Yeah. And so that's how I live my life. You know, it's a pattern. And I was like, this is not working out well.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I just started self-educating, to be honest. And it took me years. It took me a really long time to understand that there was hope, that there was something different. And I got little glimpses of being in my passion and how good that felt. It came from me. It didn't come from anything else externally that I got from that. And that was like a drug. That was like a new drug for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have this pharmacopoeia of good feeling, good chemicals that we can create ourselves. And I just started, it started out with health and wellness, and it, that extends to so many functional modalities. And it morphed into yoga, and it morphed into breath work and meditation. And just through all my education, I was finally like, and I could see other people that were feeling my same pain.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
And at first, I just wanted to tell everybody about it. And you can't do that. Like people need to be able to receive.
Sure.
And so, then I just found people coming to me, telling me things that I don't think normal people tell people on a moment's notice. And I'm like, dang. And then, I would get comments like, yeah, man, your energy is so good, you know. But that's something that I work on for sure.
Working on the energy?
The energy, yeah.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because the first time that I remember you in my life, we were at Friday Yoga and you were right next to me. And there's just something about you that I felt like I had met you before. And I didn't know how I knew you, but I felt like I knew you. So, I mean, that was definitely prevalent in my relationship with you and how it started.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're in those scenarios, you're in community, you're flowing with your breath, you're moving your body, your energy is getting shifted. And when you're next to somebody, you know, you've heard me talk about this. We all create our vibe, our electromagnetic field, and that's an easy place to have a pretty high vibe. And so if you're vibing with someone, I'm absorbing a little bit of yours, you're absorbing a little bit of mine, and so, you know, I try to go into those spaces intentionally. Like, what do I want? How do I want to feel? How do I feel now? How do I want to feel during the practice? How do I want to feel afterwards? Yeah. And I just try to build that through everything that we do. So maybe you're feeling that.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, I think, about being intentional. Like, I purposely will go front row energy. And one of my friends was, do you have front row energy or do you manifest it when you're up there? And so we were right next to each other, front row energy. It's a hot class. It's packed, and it's like, not that everyone's looking at us, but like you're in the front row, like you need to be dialed in. So we were right next to each other. And then coincidentally, Carly, who we've spoken to on this podcast, she had posted about you, and I saw Brittany leave a comment, and I was like, those are two women that I admire. They're definitely on the path, and I'd been feeling disconnected from, something was missing. And so I reached out to you, and I think the first thing I said to you is like, I know, like, I'm going to this next level. I feel like I have all of the puzzle pieces, but I don't know how to put them together. So is that pretty common for people reach out to you?
Absolutely. Okay. I was going to say, first of all, I want to say Brittany and Carly are amazing women. You're exactly right. Yeah. I love them. It's so amazing to be on a journey. And I always say, unhappy journeys do not create happy outcomes, no matter even if you end up where you think you wanted to go.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. I want to, because that is one of the things that I'm really enjoying about like our work together is like, I definitely come from the like work hard, hustle hard, grind, and it's like, keep your head down. Like, you can't really enjoy anything. And this like new path of like, no, I'm going to dominate and I'm going to enjoy the process, and like everything that I want is coming to me and working in that mindset instead of the scarcity and the, holding my breath all the time, feeling anxious, nervous, and waiting for the bottom to fall out.
Yeah. So been there for like so many years. I mean, I so wish that I had these tools way back in my teens and 20s. But yeah, I think that a lot of people feel like, I think we're conditioned, we're domesticated to feel that way. We're told that you have to struggle, you have to be in the grind, you got to be in the hamster wheel to get anywhere. Productivity. Yeah. Self-worth is totally related to your productivity. And, if I were to ask you, how do you define success? People normally don't say, well, I think people who have a level of emotional intelligence don't always say, oh, that's a millionaire. Because I know a lot of millionaires that are really unhappy. Sure. I know a lot of millionaires that are really freaking happy too. So I would say, I really had to look at like, I sought out people who I felt were successful. I just watched them, people that had what I thought I wanted, and did some modeling and some visualization on all of that. But I would say that those folks, I was attracted to them because they had passion. Sure. Right? Yeah. And so I think that everybody has all the tools. Everybody has all the tools that they need. They've been muted and veiled and squashed by external circumstance, by experiences that we have, by negative experiences that create negative emotions. And so with my work, we do some shadow deep diving.
Yeah, we did.
And it is actually possible to excavate a lot of that. They're blocks. They're roadblocks to remembering how badass you are, really.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that is popped into me through the experience is like feeling like, what you experienced from your past and the generation before is like the generational trauma.
Yeah.
And taking ownership in my own life of like, well, I don't know how this happened, and it probably happened, people doing the best that they can, but like, I'm going to take ownership and put a stop to it.
Yes.
And so we did some of that work. And it's like, not only do I feel that for me, like I feel like I cleared that space out for like the people in my family and my space and what's to come next. So can you talk a little bit more about like what that looks like because I never really saw myself as having experienced trauma. I didn't really think of that way. But when someone says that they've experienced trauma, like what does that mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that there are unique experiences to trauma for a lot of folks. I think that the pain of trauma and the internal damage that it does, that type of stimulus that it does on your subconscious, and ultimately, like Dr. Bruce Lipton, he talks about generational trauma. He talks about birth trauma, and really the expression of our DNA, of our genes is, everyone talks about nature versus nurture. And he describes really scientifically, I think he does a great job, a book called Biology of Belief. A lot of our gene expression comes from what we're experiencing, which comes from stimulus. So whatever stimulus happens, we react to that. We have receptor sites in our cells that take whatever stimulus comes in, and then they send a message to our genes of how is that gene going to be expressed. We talked about this. It's like, when your cells are constantly being regenerated and you have the same DNA in the nucleus of all your cells, how does your heart cell know to be a heart cell? Well, it's getting the stimulus that's telling it to produce that way. How does your muscle cell know? How does a neuron know to be a, brain cell?
Right.
So, I think that in order to, so there's healing for trauma, and it's possible it's different for everybody, different path for everybody.
Yeah, right.
I think two things. One, when you practice the idea of cause and effect, and realizing that, your life isn't really the sum of your circumstance. Your life is the sum of truly like your thoughts and your choices. And we have agency over that. And we forget that we have so much agency and so much power over our thoughts and our choices. So I think that people who, and this isn't about blame at all, but I would say, when you're living on the side of cause, you are creating results. When you're living on the side of effect, and we've all been there, it feels like life is happening to you.
Right.
You feel a lack of control, a lack of certainty, and you're just reacting to what's coming at you. And they've done studies, and people's levels of happiness comes from a feeling of, how in control do you feel, and how certain about your future do you feel. And so when you're living on the side of effect, you just don't have those because you're just getting stuff thrown at you.
Sure.
So when you can teach people to learn to move over to the side of cause, and they have more agency and power over their thoughts and their choices and their beliefs and their values, and you really you get clear about what your values are, oh man, you're really in the driver's seat then.
Yeah. And I noticed that in our own work, because I went through a string of events where it was just like on the surface felt negative. And it just got to the point where I never want to think of myself as a victim, but it was like a victim mindset, a scarcity mindset of like, what's going to happen next? Where something happened to me recently that was unfortunate, and I felt it, and it was still painful, but it was received in a different way. And I didn't immediately go to that place of like, woe is me, this always happens to me. And I think that transitioning, like you said, to the cause place of like, my favorite thing about this is, and I've been able to encourage other people with some of the struggles that they've had. I said this to my sister last night. I was like, you still get to decide how this goes. I still get to decide how this goes. And that is so empowering, because otherwise you're just like drifting and you're just like in the waves getting batted around. So being in that place of like, no, you know what? Like, I don't have to say yes to this. I don't have to put up with this. Like, I get to decide how this goes. Like, that is like such a powerful place to be. And it's not a complicated response. It's not a complicated behavior.
No. Okay. So, let me go back first for a second. You just sparked something. Yeah. Well, first one of my favorite quotes is Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
And I think I shared this with you.
Yeah.
This is huge. If you just can remember this and just be aware, between stimulus and response, there's space. You can create space. In that space lies your power to choose.
Yeah.
And then, whatever your response is, whatever response you choose, That says a lot about your freedom and your growth. And so when you do that over and over, when you create space and you realize that you start to practice responsibility, you just take responsibility, you take power back for your life. And that's not to say that when bad things happen that it's not about blame at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that we can create an impermeable, somewhat, armor in cultivating our own power, our own energy, our own light, remembering what we are, remembering our wholeness, remembering our worth.
Yeah. And I shared that with you yesterday when we were working together. Like, this new place that I'm in, like, I just feel invincible. Not that like nothing, I'm still human, but it's just like the things that are showing up, it's just like, this is a part of my human experience. Like, I'm in this moment to learn something or to flourish or to get better. And then I'm looking back at the chain reaction of bullshit that was my life the last year and a half of, I fought it and I was like, my life should not be this way, where it's like, no, this is exactly how my life is supposed to be. And the things that I went through, now I can like help other people and encourage other people. And it's like, it's almost like that's hard stuff happens to strong people and for a reason. But I could sit there and just be like, woe is me, but I'm not in that place anymore.
Yeah.
Who wants to be in that place? And,
No.
I think we have listeners that are in that place, and that's okay. Like, I think you've probably been there. I've definitely been there, but that's not the end of the story.
Absolutely not. And that cycle doesn't need to continue. You can create a pattern interrupt, and you can create a new habitual pattern that just makes you feel better. I also think that it's not uncommon to feel that way, especially, let's go back to talking about trauma. There's generational trauma, like I said, that's passed through our DNA. There's birth trauma, and we have an imprint period. Dr. Lipton talks about our imprint period being basically from like 0 to 7 years old, where we learn about anger, and we learn about sadness, and we learn about fear, and we learn about guilt and shame, and we learn about hurt, and we feel it. We also learn about joy and love and gratitude and all those things. But when I talked about your light and your power and that amazing feeling getting muted, it gets muted each time, anger comes in, or experience a significant emotional event of sadness, or fear is a big one. And so all of those stack up, and in that imprint period where your brain is so malleable, you're in like theta brain state during that period, and your subconscious mind is just absorbing everything and creating realities based on that. If those obstacles, those negative emotions, if they don't get removed, they're just going to create blocks as you move forward through life. And your brain your unconscious mind needs to find resolution. So when bad things happen, you can go to woe is me. And you can also go, okay, why did this happen? I don't know. I'm going to get curious about why. What did I need to learn?
Sure.
What did I need to know? What is my unconscious brain, who always has my best interest in mind? What was the learnings that needed to be created from this experience? And again, you're taking back a little bit of power there. You're back in the driver's seat. And so when you learn how to remove some of those blocks, those obstacles, you just find flow. You just find you start to focus on what you want instead of focusing on the past and the woe is me.
Right.
So I think that cycle can be addictive.
I think both sides can be addictive.
Yep.
Like it's definitely like a momentum thing. And I experienced in our work together, like I experienced that. Like we did releases of those. And I think you said something along the lines of like, the reason that's so prevalent is because it served as protection at some point, and it's in a place where you didn't feel safe, but we're not there anymore. So it's like being able to communicate internally with your subconscious and just being like, we're on a different path now. Yeah. And it will go where we want it to go, but we have to be in sync, right?
Yes, you have to find rapport.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how conscious or aware is a better word people are of their conscious mind or their subconscious mind. I think that's why we create patterns that fail. Like we go against people call willpower. Yeah. I'm just going to will myself through this. That'll work for a while, but it's just it's not sustainable at all. Yeah. And because you are working, the will is the subconscious, which is 90% of your power and your knowledge and the downloads that you get that you need to have, whereas your conscious mind is only, you're only accessing about 10% of your brain.
Right.
But if you can create rapport between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, the access that you have, the portal that you have, your subconscious mind knows everything. It remembers everything. It hears everything, sees everything. It takes all of that information in, and it is accessible. Now, obviously, we have a filtration system, so we our minds are not blown, and we're not trying to focus on driving like squirrel all the time. But that filtration system is also malleable. So what, energy flows where your attention goes.
Right.
Your perception is your projection.
Totally.
So whatever you're focusing on, your subconscious mind is like a 5-year-old perpetually, loves to be right, always wants to prove you right. So whatever you say, whatever you believe, whatever you truly believe is in your belief system and your values, that will be true. So another thing that we do is we get rid of limiting beliefs. So we start to become aware. What are the limiting decisions, beliefs? Before you have a limiting belief, you had to decide that was true.
Right.
So...
Well, that was one of the things that I struggled with is everything in me wanted a certain thing, but I just felt like I was butting up against a wall, and I don't feel that way anymore. And I see that part, the volume on that is just turned down so much to the point where when it shows up, it's just I notice it and then it's gone. It's not this because it would be I want this result. It doesn't happen. And then that voice pops in and says, this is, it never happens for you. It just reinforces that, where it's that story never served and it doesn't serve anymore. And it's I don't listen, I don't believe that anymore. That just feels like a lie and just something that probably served to protect me. And I think the other thing too, that I thought a lot about is I think there's a part of me that if I got everything I said that I wanted, then I would have no excuse. So it's really a fear of success, essentially.
Yeah,
so
self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said fear is huge.
Yeah.
Fear's not a bad thing.
Sure.
I don't want to totally knock fear.
Yeah.
It serves its purpose. When the tiger is running after you, there's not very many tigers, except for in your life.
Yeah, I am the tiger.
It served its purpose. When you're walking across the street, fear helps you out. So you're not getting plowed by a bus.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you, fear. But we live in a society that's so fear keeps you from being solution oriented, a problem solver. It keeps you from being creative. It keeps you stagnant. It keeps you dependent too. Fear is also a stimulant. So again, it's addictive. And really I would just say that the domestication of humans, is the use of fear. It's the wielding of fear.
Yeah.
So how do you get past that? I would say that for most people who have a pattern of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, just, they have a goal in mind, or something that they want and they can't obtain. Very often fear is a big obstacle.
Well, and then that's where it loops in also, because that's where I would feel I got to grind harder. I got to work harder. I can't have success without joy. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just that doesn't I don't want to live my life in that way anymore. I got to the point, about a year and a half ago where I was I can't just carry myself to success over the finish. I just can't do it anymore. It's just eating me alive. It took me to a place emotionally that it's just,
you're depleted.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just feel tired.
Yeah.
Man.
And the thing, watching videos on, and that's why we're doing, this is encouragement based and not motivation based. Even with my team at work, it's I don't really care about be consistent, whatever that looks like, because that has so much more results. And I think there's a freedom in releasing that fear, especially for me of, I don't know what the day is going to hold. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be accountable to myself, and good things are going to happen. Maybe they don't look like on the surface, but it always works to a place of good. And just knowing that in this moment, whatever's showing up is what I need. And that's a total mindset shift of grind, the YouTube video of a crackhead, will always get what he needs. And are you going to let a crackhead outwork you? It's that doesn't it's that's a fun, analogy, but that type of stuff burns you out. That's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. And I just think that, especially with the last 2 years, what has gone on, I think people are just burnt
We're
out.
wearing it. I think we're all wearing the last 2 years, and we're just coming to a place of we can take our armor off a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, it does not have to, I do not subscribe to the struggle bus.
Yes. I got off.
Yeah.
That didn't
I mean,
work
you
for me.
totally, you literally changed your narrative, but you
Mm-hmm.
also, you had such an amazing transformational shift. I mean,
You can gas me up whenever you want.
it's so, and what I see with you is not uncommon.
Cool.
Someone comes to me and they're feeling, I've been there. You come depleted, and you have so much self-doubt and lack of hope.
Yeah.
And you're feeling overwhelmed.
Totally.
And a lot of people I'm seeing right now are very anxious.
Yeah. Like I had a constant low grade anxiety, even when things were going well. When's the other shoe? And I'm not feeling that anymore. It's just because I'm in the place of cause. It's even if something on the surface shows up, it's I'll just figure it out. I'll handle it.
Right. It's because you were given, you did the work. So you were given a toolbox. And you actually use the tools. So there's no unresourceful people. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I agree.
There's just simply unresourceful states of mind.
Yeah, that's so well said. Yeah.
And so when you have all the tools, imagine, I think you can now. It's very easy for you to imagine, what would you do? What would your life look like if you had all the tools, all the resources, all the support that you needed to get whatever you want? To pick, from a catalog, you could pick whatever you want. What would your life look like?
Yeah.
First of all, get clear. What does that look like? I would say a lot of folks, when you ask, what do they want? What do you want? They say, I don't know.
I'm really glad you brought this up because I've been accused of being picky in the past. And it's all a shift. And it's I'm not picky. I just know what I want, So, and there's a lot of power in that of I don't have to say yes to anything I don't want to say yes to because that doesn't align because now I'm clear on my intention, my values, and my path is and this is just a testament to our work is my path is so clear. It's mind blowing. And if someone else can't see it, they're not meant for my path. Everyone and everything, the path that I'm blazing, everything's going to show up. It's already there.
Okay, good. Yes.
Yeah. The timeline is just a matter of time.
Yes.
We were joking yesterday, I'm already a millionaire. I just got to catch up with my timeline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In training. Yeah. No, so you created, you have switched your vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
Through your mindset, through emotion, you did some emotional work too. You essentially lifted a lot of the heavy energetic weight. We don't have to do this stuff alone. So obviously getting help is really encouraged, getting a coach, getting a therapist, getting someone to do energy work on you. But we also, so this might get is it okay if I get a little esoteric?
Let's do it. Yeah, okay. Of course.
Everything is energy. When we break down all matter, all physicality, it breaks down to, molecules and atoms and protons and neutrons and quarks, and you could go further. It's just energy.
Right.
Energy can be transformed, not destroyed.
It shifts.
So it shifts.
Yeah.
So we all really actually have access to an energetic team. And it doesn't matter what you believe. Maybe,
I like where
the
this
head
is
of
going.
the team,
Yeah.
maybe that's God.
Yeah.
Maybe you call it the universe. Maybe you call it source energy. Whatever. There is an energetic team from past generations, past lives. I think I told you that I did work with a client, and we talk about past generation, past lives, and they said, I don't believe in past lives. And then when we were doing our work, they went deep. They were in their trance, and I said, how long ago? Da da da. And they said 3 past life, and I'm like, what? Whatever comes out is true.
I'm not a past life person, and that popped up in our work together. I'm like, okay, but you I stayed in the place of curiosity, and it served a purpose, and it showed me something, and it's so I see the connectedness. My point
is that you don't have to bear all the weight by yourself.
So thankful. Yes.
So do the work to lift some of that energetic weight off. It allows you to see clearer. It allows you to stop being stagnant. It allows you to, it opens your mind to creativity, options that you never even dreamed of.
But I think, and I want to also add, the energetic team, I think it also looks like the people that walk into your life. I'm attracting a different energetic team of just it's collecting, and I think we've talked about this, a tribe, a new tribe of people. And it's just you get it, I get it, same page, same things, and the interconnectedness of it. And it's seemingly popping up. And then it's then you see that other person and you're cheering for each other because you know what they're going to do. And then it just continues to multiply, and you have more and more, and then the results and everything else is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever been in a place where you were like, these are not my people. I'm not thriving here.
Yeah. Multiple times. Yeah.
I feel I spend time with these folks out of obligation. I find myself feeling resentment.
I've felt that multiple times. And I'm in the process too of a life change. And it's just like moving away from some of the naysayers, which like, I don't know if you have rule number 1, but like naysayers is like a big thing. Like you want to like, if you want to know where you stand with people, tell people you're moving and you'll find out like who's really in your corner. Like people I didn't even like think about, they're like, oh my God. Like I've had like 2 conversations. Like, I'm so excited for you. Like I want to be there. Good for you. And then other people I thought I were close with, and then they're just like, okay. They try to like, shoot their venom into you. Huh? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But see, you've learned now to not drink the venom.
Totally. Yeah.
To not drink the poison.
And that's the thing I think when you get into, regardless of how we want to define the ego, but like when you're in that place of effect, like you want to argue, you want to play those games, you want to stew on that, like, oh, that person, I'm just like,
you want to be right.
Like, I'm not even on that. There's levels to this game. And I'm like, I'm not even on the same level as that person, and not trying to diminish or demean anybody, but it's just like, they're stagnant in dealing with whatever they're going. And yes, people are doing the best that they can, but it's like energetically, like,
well, people just really, I mean, like I said, everyone has their own internal state.
Sure.
And their internal state shifts based on, perception, experience, body chemistry. It's synergistic relationship, body, mind. So people, their perception is their projection onto you too. So people will project onto you what their own internal state, what their own internal state is, and however they're vibrating, which is exactly why, you and me can go listen to the same song and it hypes you up and gets you all buzzy. And I'm like, this is crap. We're just vibrating at different frequencies. And we're different states maybe.
Well, and even still, like, I love the song example because you said to me, like, is there a song that like you hear it and you're like, oh, and you're into it, and then another time you're like, I don't want to listen. Yeah. So like, I get that. And like, I try not to take any of that personally. And like, this also takes us to the second agreement. What's the second agreement?
Don't take anything personally. Yeah. So yeah, Don Miguel Ruiz, The 4 Agreements, is a really amazing book. I think a lot of people have heard of it.
I had.
You had heard of it? Okay.
I had it, and I read about the 4, but I didn't do a deep dive on it until we started working together.
I recommend that book to almost all my clients. I think everybody should read it. I've read it multiple times. I read it multiple times a year just to remind. He goes so deep.
Yeah,
the first agreement being impeccable. Be impeccable with your word.
Right.
And that also, translates to your thoughts.
Yeah.
How are you speaking to yourself?
Totally.
And then the second agreement, don't take anything personally. And so, he talks about taking things personally is the like ultimate act of personal importance. The ultimate act of selfishness, he calls it.
Yeah.
And it's egoic. So your little self is trying to take over. Your fear-based self is trying to take over. And really, when people project onto you, maybe they give you feedback. I always say like feedback is great, but feedback is only as good as the person giving it to.
Sure.
So you get to decide what you're going to take in and what you're going to decide, like try it on like a hat. Does this fit? Does this feel good for me and my body and my mind? No, done. And you start to notice when circumstance or opportunity, if you want to call it, come to you, or even people asking you to do things. I think all of us are probably over asked.
Sure. Yeah.
How does it feel? You start to equate, like, how does it feel in my body? Does it feel contracting? Do I contract on it? And check in, is that fear? Or if you've gotten rid of fear, you can be more of a true gauge of, or does it feel like really expansive?
Yeah.
So we've talked about this. Is that a fuck yes? And if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no.
Not doing it. Yeah, I think that it's so interesting because like I noticed that a lot of the things that I've accomplished in the past were driven off of that negative side of the ledger, fear, anger, like tell me I can't do something and then it's a chip on my shoulder. And then it's like, I spend all this time and energy and effort and I get it. And the person that like, I wanted to like throw it in their face, like isn't even paying attention.
They don't care.
Yeah. They
care about what's going on with them.
Yes. Yeah. Like that's like one of my favorite things about yoga. Like I was like so self-conscious on my mat. And then like, I kind of got to the place where I like got done one day and I'm like, I don't know what was going on with anybody else in the room. So why am I so fixated on, and I think there's like the reality of life is like, we're all like living our own lives. We're all the stars of our own stories. Like nobody cares that much. And so, I think that like frees you up to be like, okay, well, what am I going to do? And for some of us, like I had a health scare last year. So it was like, thank God it didn't affect me the way it could have, but it was like, why did it take that to be like, go live your life, go do the thing. And so also wanting to be in that place of, I want to be proactive in deciding my journey instead of just sitting on the couch and what if,
and you
could have been, could have, would have, should have. Yeah.
Yeah. You deserve that. I mean,
we all do.
We do. I mean, we are humans having a human experience. We are meant to be here, and we are meant to experience pleasure, and we're meant to have passion, and we're meant to feel unconditionally loved. That's really what is intended for us, and we have forgotten.
Sure.
And I think a lot of tools have been intentionally tried to be taken away from us, so that when you drive in fear and it's divisive, and you lose the ability not only to harness your own power, but you also lose, like if everybody's like that, there's no collective energy, collective power, collective thought.
Yeah. I also feel like it's very narrow. Like you can't see, like there's so much goodness out here, but you're so here because you're just trying to protect the little thing that you have.
Absolutely.
When it's like if you...
So we do this in my practice. When you open your peripheral vision, when you find a way to be more aware of just beyond your bubble, number one, you gain access to your subconscious mind. That is a fantastic way to gain access to your subconscious mind. You open up energy portals, so it gives you, it fills you up with energy rather than draining your energy. And so when you have foveal vision, you're hyper-focused, narrow view, it's very problem-oriented. And when you have peripheral vision, when you open up, you're solution-oriented, and you're calm. You're more calm, and you're more centered, and you're balanced. And that's when you get like the downloads. I don't know where they come from. I don't know if you've ever had them.
Of course I've had them.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. I've heard about some of them. But you have to be in a place that you can receive those.
Okay. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is one thing I want to talk about. Is before we started working together, you said something to me along the lines of like, before I'll work with anyone, like I have to know that they're ready. And so I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about, this might be a very foreign concept to some of the people that are listening and watching. What is like one or two things that they can simply do to start like opening up that awareness of communicating with their subconscious, becoming more aware, quieting things down so that they can move from that place of like, because I think a lot of people, and I was definitely like, I look back at like periods of my life, especially the one I just came out of, I was drifting. Like I felt like I was doing this and I had things to show for it, but like I was just like a robot. There's like,
you're checking the boxes.
Yeah, just checking the boxes.
Yeah, it was mundane.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wasn't, and I feel like I look back and it's just like, where did that time go? You know, I have some things to show for it, but I didn't really feel present because I was too wrapped up in my own bullshit a lot of the time.
Yep, been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so there's a great book by Joseph Murphy called The Power of the Unconscious Mind.
Yeah.
It's super old school. And if I would say that if you're more on the spirituality end of the spectrum versus religious, there's, I would say be open to just changing around some of the words. There is some, religious references, and if that's not your jam, you can just change the words to universe or source or anything like that.
Yeah.
But the concepts are still very, very potent and valid. So I would read that.
Yeah. No,
I assign that to almost all my clients.
And you assign it to me. And like, that's the thing. Like I've been obsessed with like learning about this for probably a decade now. And I never heard of that book. And it's probably the most practical book on the subject that I've come across.
Yeah.
And I love that you brought that up actually, because I think there's so many different things in that book that are, you're like, hey, I want to focus on this. He gives you a practice or an exercise for it. So you start building up the muscle for it. I listened to it once. I'm listening to it again. Like I got it on Kindle. Like there's a part that I journal every single morning. It's like, hey, if you want this in your life, think about this. And I'm doing it. And so, and the things are coming together. Yeah. So it's like a chicken or the egg kind of a thing where like, I understand like there's people that are probably watching and like, this is woo-woo. And I'm just like, I'm not a woo-woo person at all. Like I'm definitely a person of faith. And like, this aligns with all of those things. And then it like, if you come into, regardless of however you feel about God, like created you out of love. So he gave you a gift, and this is my gift on display. Like encouragement's the number one thing I'm good at. I've been doing shit with it for, I mean, I have, but like not in such a focused way like I am now.
Not so intentional.
Right.
Like you have intention and passion infused behind what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And so you're on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what, like The Secret, when that came out, that was a, you know, really, really popular book, and, you know, manifesting and all that stuff. And I think that was a great introduction.
Right.
One of the things that I think it's important to add is you have to also take action.
Yeah. Yeah.
But don't take action just to take action. Like, take inspired action.
Yeah. Right.
So remove some of the blocks, and then get clear about what you want. You start to feel an ignition of passion again, and love, like you said, and wholeness.
Yeah.
And then you start remembering what passion feels like.
Yeah, I forgot.
And you start to,
I forgot.
And you start to remember and start to know what your gifts are.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is here because they have a gift.
Totally.
And so hopefully, and I know I've heard this before, and I would be like, I don't know what my gift is. I have no idea. And I just waited. I was just patient. It's like, okay, it's gonna show up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna figure it out.
Yes. I'm glad that you said that, because it's so obvious to me now, but like it wasn't until like we cleared out a lot of the stuff. And for anybody that's thinking about this, I know there's a lot of high performance people that might be like, oh, I don't need this. Like wherever you're at, you're going to go to the next level. Like it's unfathomable. Like people have been saying like, I wish you all the best. And that means something different to me. I'm like, yeah, because what is coming is going to be the best.
Yeah.
Like thank you for saying that. I don't need that affirmation or confirmation, but this best shit that's coming is going to look like it's unfathomable. Like I feel like I'm on a rocket ship, you know, like, so
Feels
like,
good.
yeah, it does. And like, but it wasn't like coming to this project was like, it just kind of dawned on me, like I think for like the way that I feel like some of the downloads and hits that I get is if something shows up 3 times in a short period of time for me, I'm like, you know, once, twice, 3 times, it's like, okay, John, like,
hello, I'm screaming at you.
Totally. And in like basically like a 3-week period, it just kind of hit on me. Like I helped 3 people that are really important to me in my life transition into a phase of their life that they were fearful of, but we worked together because I wasn't afraid of it. It's like, I already done this. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
And that was a source of strength for them and encouragement. And then it was just like the bond that is created is like, you never forget that. Like it's more than friendship. It's like, there's always like that tip of the cap of like, and then you're rooting for them, and then they get there and it's like, we did this. You did this, but we did this. Even like you said that to me, like, John, you did the work, but yeah, but we did this.
Yeah. I mean, they are really the hero of their own life.
1000%.
We are guides.
Yep.
We are guides. We are guiding them, holding them accountable, and allowing them to open up to see the forest through the trees.
If they want to.
Right. So yeah, this is not for everybody.
No.
It can be pretty intense. I was not ready to do this. I would say, oh, I wish I knew this back in my blah, blah, blah. I wasn't ready then. So, you know, I tell people, you're an encourager. And so you see people, I'm sure that you're like, see maybe struggling or have more potential than they're living. You're like, oh, you got to go do this, go do this, go do this. And I just say, they'll come when they're ready.
Yeah. No.
They need to know it's available.
Totally.
But then you'll come when you're ready. You have to be, and I mean, you and I have talked about this, and I think that you probably have the same expectations for the folks that you are helping, but you have to be ready to go all in 100%.
1000%. Yeah. You got to burn the ship. Yeah.
My daughter's an archer, so I use this analogy all the time. You know, if she's aiming at the X ring, if she is all in, but she's 99% correct, but she's 1% off, by the time the arrow gets to the target, it'll be in a totally different place. It will not be in the X ring anymore. And so it's the same with our life. If we are not hyper focused on exactly what we want, we are getting rid of naysayers. We are creating boundaries. We are moving away from the people-pleasing selves that we are all very much conditioned to be. and we are full steam ahead with passion and intention to where we want to go, you will get there.
And I think
without question.
I think that's also like removing of the fear, like thinking of the like, I think I want to get there, blah, 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 blah. That's not for me or blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, no, this is for me. And sometimes what I don't know what's going to show up, but I just know that also detaching is going to show up. It's going to be better than I thought, better than I expected. And just embracing the wonder of the journey, so to speak.
That's such a good way to describe surrendering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trusting.
Totally.
Letting go.
Yeah.
The more we grip, the more resistance is created.
Yeah.
And you said something that just made me think of, I think we were talking about the struggle bus and all of that stuff. I think that once you come back to your wholeness and you come back to your creation, your love and all that, you don't need to suffer anymore. I think people sometimes get on the suffer. There's no amount of suffering that you can endure to make people notice or love you.
Or suffering like a result. Like, I want this so badly, I'm just going to suffer my way to it. It's like,
that's an unhappy journey.
No, yeah. And I think a lot of people aren't. I was on it. I did that, you know, and even I lived what I thought was my dream at the time, but it was like a wake of destruction and it like ate me up from the inside. And it was good to experience, but again, like I can sit and when it stopped happening for me, I had like the biggest pity party and I wore it like a badge of honor. Like people don't understand. And it's like, I look back and it's like, but if that doesn't happen, this doesn't happen. So that had to happen so that I could be here. Absolutely. So that's like the big shift that I've experienced of like things on the surface at the time might feel bad. They might hurt and not saying, and you and I are very like, don't bring that toxic positivity to us. Like we don't F with that, but it's the reframing, which is, we were in class. I was in class at Jessica's class last Monday and it was Pilates and,
Monday's best day of the week.
Yeah, Monday's Jessica. Like, okay, yeah. Well, and we're gonna get to that too. But it was like a second set of burpees, and I'm like, I didn't even want to do the first one, and so I said, "Fuck!" Like, and everybody heard it, and Jessica was like, "What did you say?" And I was like, "Yes." You know, it's just that reframe, and then it's like, but I'm even noticing in my own practice, like, I'm embracing burpees because it's like it's hard, it's tough, but it's like I can eat them and like get better at them and feel good about it, and I have more energy to do them, or I can just like, you know, drift through practice and complain and not maximize the workout. But like, you're very good at like the reframing. And like, one of the things that like I worked on, or we've been working on is like, I'm just like, Jessica, like Sundays at like 3:00 to like Mondays at 3:00. Like I'm just like on a lower vibration and I can't really pinpoint it. And you're like, Mondays are the best day of the week for me. And I'm like, this woman's crazy. Where now I'm just kind of like, yeah, Mondays are pretty tight. Like I'm going to get up, I got to do something different. Like you encouraged me to come to your class and that gave me a lot of energy and shift. And so like the reframe is so important. And even on some of the things that like, I'm just like, yeah, I don't really want to do that anymore, Jessica. And you're like, well, why? And you're just like curious to the point where I'm just like, yeah, she's right. I'm going to still do it. So, and then it reframes in my own mind. So can we talk a little bit more about like how you got so good at that and how, you know, that's just the littlest shifts and just a little shift and a little shift. And then it's like a huge shift.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's where a coach helps out,
Sure.
You know, is to help you see the reframe. It's again, helping you go from maybe a state that is not resourceful to a state that is open to possibility, curious, create a little bit more creative. And I'll challenge you, you know, you may say, express something that is really like a limiting belief or a limiting decision. Yeah. And I'll say, well, is that true?
Yeah.
When did you decide that? Is that really true? Mm-hmm. And then when people think about it, they're like, oh, no, that's not true, actually. I'm like, okay, what is true? And it's something completely different. So the reframe, it's much easier to do when you remove a lot of the blocks. Mm-hmm. So it's easier said than done. Although that's a limiting belief too. It can be easy and effortless. Like when people are ready to reframe, when they're ready to get out of their own way.
Yes.
They have the knowledge inside. It just takes someone to pull it out.
Yeah. It does. And I think that that's like one of my strengths, but it's also like, I can't do it for myself all the time. So that's where like our work has really helped me out. And there's definitely been times where, and that's why one of my favorite things about you being in my life is just being able to like, here's some bullshit. I know it's bullshit, but can you like help me not see it as such bullshit? And then we like slowly work through it. And then it's like, it's almost like I just imagine like some of the things that we've worked through. Like I just feel like this like little kid that's just like, you know, walking up in shame. And then you talk to an adult that is like totally like confident. Like, why are you so worried about this? And then all of a sudden you feel like it just, I don't know. That's probably the weird analogy, but like sometimes like that's how it feels. Like I'm in this place of shame. We talk about it and like you slowly like turn the volume down. And then I get more and more empowered. Like the guilt and the shame and the anxiety and all the low grade, high grade. I was just like, I'm just not in that vibration anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that you will never experience hurt or guilt or shame, but you just are going to react. First of all, it's not going to have the charge that it used to have. It's not going to grip you for as long and as intensely anymore. Yeah. Like that's done because now you know, now you've preserved your learnings. You remembered the things that you needed to remember in order to get closure and resolution for those emotions. And so you have those forever now. Then these little shifts, you know, when you start to ingrain those learnings into your subconscious, that you're creating new neurology. That's, you know, they talk about neuroplasticity. This is what it is.
NLP.
Yes. And so when you pay attention to those and you are reminded of those, what you needed to learn, the things that allow you now to have closure and resolution, you don't have to keep repeating circumstances, the same patterns over and over in order to try to find resolution anymore. It's done. So that's huge.
Yeah, it's
a huge energetic shift.
It is. And it almost feels like those things, when they showed up, they just had free reign. They just there was no bodyguard. There was no one checking security. Where now when those things show up, it's almost like they pause and it's like, no, you don't get to come in. And so like the volume goes down and then it's just, and like I lost a good friend 2 weeks ago and it happened on my birthday that I found out. And like the old thought patterns popped in of like, of course this would happen. This and blah, 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 blah. And then it's just like, I was just like, whoa, I'm not doing that anymore. And then it shifted to be like, well, today's my birthday. What about all these amazing gifts that this person brought into my life? And then I started to think about like all the things that they did for me. So it was like a total shift where it's like, yeah, I still cried about it. I still have my feelings about it. It's still challenging, but I'm not like in this, like, here's another like self-limiting belief, turning up the volume on this thing, this story that doesn't serve. It's like, you know what? Like this person made an impact in my life. It's unfortunate, you know, but that's also like, life is precious. Our time here is short, and just further confirms like why we need to go for it. Like, and what's the saying that, I don't know if we have like if you're able to like the full, but like we feel like we should be hidden with, but what we should be doing is.
Oh, the Marianne Williamson quote.
Yes.
Okay. I should just quote her directly, but essentially a summary of this is a great quote, is, you know, we are more fearful of the light and the love and the shine that is inside of us and I'm going to say it wrong, so I'm going to look it up.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to just read it because I'm going to totally screw it up.
I mean, it's so good because I think that like what is coming into my life is like other light beings essentially, and connecting with that when we're talking about like our team, and like that's what's showing up. And like like this resonates with me so much because it's like, you don't want to be too bright. You don't want to take up too much space. People tell me all the time I'm too much. And I used to like, I need to tone me down. And that's like, no, I'm going to continue to turn out. Those people aren't for me.
If I'm too much, then go find something less.
Bye. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Go find something less. Yeah. There's a lot out there. It's available. There's in abundance.
Yes.
If you don't want to be abundant, you can be abundant in that. How about that? Yeah.
Okay. Our deepest fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that is what most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant and gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will not feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it is in everybody. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates theirs.
Yeah. Like that's like, that's that experience. That's like, that's what I'm experiencing now. And
Yeah.
it's like being the beacon of light in my own life of like, I'm going here, you can come too. I will root you on. You don't have to stay small anymore. And like, I'm just thinking about like the times where it's like we're just like so apologetic, and it's like, no, take up space.
Yes.
Like take up space. Like we can, there's not finite pieces of the pie. Like we can bake more pie.
I say that in my class all the time. Take up space.
Yeah.
Be big.
Yeah. And I love hearing that, because like, it's again, like even on this path, it's like, I still need like those reminders. And then the connectedness is so huge. Like you encouraged me to read the book about trauma, and the reality of trauma is like the number one thing that stuck out to me about that book. The number one healing thing for trauma is community. And we've been so disconnected from community the last 2 years.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
So whatever that looks like for people, just encouraging them to, and like you said, if this community is not serving, like just by recognizing that, that's going to open you up to a new path. Once you can say no to that, then it's like, the beacons of light, the beacons of hope start to show up. And then that's where the subconscious work and the guides and the downloads and the tips. And then, yeah.
I mean, we have not been in a trauma-informed society at all. I don't think that we could do better.
Of course.
And so, in that book, Dr. Bruce Perry. And Oprah.
Harpo.
Yep.
Let's go.
He does such a great job. I definitely recommend that book.
Yeah.
It's every parent, teacher should probably read that book. I hate shooting on people, but
yeah, no. And it was definitely a book that like when it started, I was like, not for me. It's one of the most powerful books I've ever read. I think we could all use more compassion. And I think the premise of the book is when something, we want to say like, what's wrong with you, when we should be saying what happened to you. And just being in that place of empathy just opens you up in a different way than just immediately wanting to like criticize or judge somebody. And
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when people are, in your perception, behaving badly, or if you're judging, first of all, that's fear within yourself. If you're judging, how often do we judge ourselves too?
Yeah, a lot.
But when we're judging, and that's like, why are you like that?
I've got that quite a bit in my life. Yeah.
You're totally right, though. It's like, if someone is creating harm, so, people who have been harmed typically then go on to create more harm. Harmed people create harm.
Hurt people hurt people.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So if you've been harmed, instead of reacting and retaliating, this is really hard. So this is not an easy thing, but if you can get to a place of like, this person's actions towards me really had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the harm that was inflicted on them, and now they're needing some type of protection, or they're needing to protect themselves. And it's being the poison that's been given to them is being tried to be given to you.
Yeah.
And when you can see it from that perspective, you can, again, like we talked about, you can choose to not take it in. And it does definitely bring you to a place of compassion and empathy. And I think that we really need that right now.
Yeah.
Because if we see people as others, it's really hard for, empathy, radical empathy. I read a lot about radical empathy. Isabel Wilkerson talks about radical empathy, and she wrote a book called Cast. It's more than just like imagining yourselves in their shoes. It's like really listening to their experiences. It's saying, I could never understand what you went through, but I hear you and I believe you.
Yeah.
And I have compassion for you.
I think about that because I've got to the point where I just imagine like if I spent every single step living the exact same experience that this person had, I'd probably feel the same way too. And that doesn't mean that I have to feel the same way or vice versa. And also like having compassion. And the thing that helps me the most is because the old patterns want to like react and engage. And I have to remind myself, and this is really, really helpful. And this is like definitely a way that I encourage people, especially like in a relational dynamic. The person is doing the best that they can. Yep. Whatever that looks like. That brings in so much compassion.
Yeah. And I would say they're also, if you're in relationship with them, they're gifting you a mirror of what you need to see.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting triggered, especially.
Yeah.
I mean, that took a while for me to get there, and that's a huge forgiveness practice. But if you can get to a place of like, ooh, noticing, I'm triggered right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I feel like this person is triggering me.
Yes.
What is it about me? What is being mirrored to me? What do I need to see? Why am I being triggered? What do I need to learn?
Well, and the other thing in that book is that really stood out to me that is in line with all this is regulation.
Yeah.
When I'm unregulated, if we're having an amazing conversation right now because we're both regulated, but if one person is regulated, you're not hearing, you're not speaking. It's not. So that's been really helpful for me because I'm a very fire person. Like we know this, and I can tend to like, especially when I'm not feeling heard, then it's like I want to amplify. When it's like, no, I need to disengage, get back to a regulated state, and then we can have a conversation. Like I was talking with a friend, and she was like, "How do you like to argue?" I'm like, "I don't. How do you like to solve problems? Like this, you know?" So when we're in that, and especially like coming off the last 2 years, we're all kind of like on a higher bit of alert. So, you know, in those relational dynamics, like we're doing the best we can, be regulated, understand that this person is having some kind of experience that's led them to this behavior. And
yeah. And ultimately it's like, we are all of the same species. I have to remind myself this a lot sometimes.
Well, Elon Musk, I don't know if I'm the same species as him sometimes. No, but yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah, of course. Yes. We're all having a human experience.
Yeah. And we all experience pain, kind of going back to the beginning. We experience pain. Pain, I think, feels similar. Each experience is different, but we can at least come to some commonality and experience and shared experience.
You've got to have something in common. Right?
Yeah. Yes. And so once you feel connected, even if it's in that way, you can build on that connection.
Totally.
We're sharing molecules all the time with each other.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. And I think we've been conditioned to what's different. It's like, where's growth going to come from that? Like, what do we have in common? And then we can learn about the differences.
And why is
and the
different
shifts.
bad?
It's not. It's awesome.
Yeah, like I feel like
I don't want to eat pizza every day, but I love pizza. So it's like, you know, the variety is the slice of life, like in so many different ways. Yeah.
Totally agree.
So who is a good candidate for, hey, I need some help. What does that look like typically? What do those people have in common?
I would just say anybody who is ready to take their human experience to a whole better level. So whether you feel like you're pretty successful, however you measure that, there's always more. We're limitless.
Yeah.
We have 10 to the 10 to the 10 to the 11th exponential possibilities in our life.
Yep.
It's more than every single little grain of sand on every single beach. And so it is possible. That thing that you heard as a kid, like you can be anything you want to be. It is possible. So whether you're feeling like you have arrived, but you want to go to the next level, you can. Or, you know, I do see a lot of folks who are struggling in their relationships, or have a pattern of struggling in their relationships. I see a lot of folks who have a pattern of not reaching their goals in, you know, health and wellness, or health and fitness. They come to me saying they want to maybe, you know, feel better, lose weight, get healthy, but really we end up working on like personal growth because that trickles down to every aspect of life. I see people who are punching the time clock. They're in something that they're not passionate about. They're doing something they're not passionate about, and they're just afraid to live their passion. I've so been there. Yeah. You know,
I would say most of us have. Yeah.
So again, if you imagine first, I will help you get clear about what you actually want. I'll also remove any shame from having desires. I think that we're conditioned to think that like being desirous is bad and gluttonous, and we're supposed to be shameful about that.
Right.
So we get really clear about what do you want? Where are you going? Where do you want to be? When you arrive, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? And then again, like imagine what it would feel like if you had all the tools all the resources, all the support that you needed to have whatever you want. What Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
If you can imagine that, you're ready.
So after our first session, what I thought I wanted changed in the matter of a week. Like it was inauthentic. And then I sat with that and like I just Googled like professional encourager. Like you guys can Google it. It does not exist. Like I'll be the first one. So this is my attempt at that. And then it was like this total shift and like this wave of like I can see where this vision is going and it's like I didn't want to do this other thing. Like on the surface, like I could do that thing, but there was no joy in it.
Right.
There's no enthusiasm.
It's something that you're good at. But that doesn't mean it's your passion.
Totally. Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I mean, so you speak of it and I'm gassing you up.
Yep.
You have created a scenario for yourself where you have the tools and the community and the support to fill yourself up. You have your own filling station. And now you can go give and be of service to people, offer hope, offer encouragement, offer support for people without feeling depleted.
Totally. It gasses me up at the same time. Yeah.
And when they receive it, when they receive this really energized, inspired, passionate grade of gas, it's like the premium stuff.
Totally.
They feel better. But when we don't fill ourselves up.
Yeah.
And we start to get some of the crud and the gas and we are running low emission. You're getting the low grade.
Tanks on empty.
And people feel that. And it drives depletion and resentment in ourselves.
Totally.
And it's just not as helpful to other folks. So when you've learned how to gas yourself up.
Yeah, and my self-talk is like completely different.
Yeah.
Like I'm my own best friend again. Yeah, and it's like the part of me that felt like was missing or like I want to do this but it didn't feel authentic where now it's like it's back. Like it's back. Like and it's just like the power behind it is like you can feel it. It's palpable, you know? And like being able to connect with another person in such a way that you bring things out that they may not be able to see, that there's the power. And like, there's a different, like, it's very different. Like gassing up is different from blowing smoke. So, you know, and when I'm inauthentic and I'm depleted, I'm blowing smoke. Yep. And so, but I'm not in that place anymore. It's like, this is like real, but it's also like they have to be in a place to want to receive it too, because otherwise it's just a smoke blow.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Yeah. It's a dual energy, like alignment.
Yes. Are you ready for high octane?
Yeah.
Is your audience ready for the high octane?
We're going to the moon, whether they like it or not. Yeah.
Jet fuel.
We're going to Mars.
Yeah. And you know, the cool thing too is that once you're used to having that, you don't go back. Like, you know, it's like a Formula One race car.
Totally.
You can't put gas in me anymore. I need the high octane. I need the jet fuel stuff.
Yeah. You don't want to go back to just driving a go-kart. Yeah. You like, it's, I don't like the word addicting. I think that's got a negative connotation, but it's like very uplifting. It's very encouraging. It's very like, just another momentum thing. I know everything comes back to energy, like we keep talking about, but yeah, I think that just whatever that looks like for the person, I mean, you asked me like, how are you sleeping? I'm like, I'm sleeping a little bit less than normal. And I'm just so there because it's almost like I'm working more efficiently and like going to bed excited and getting up excited. And like,
how fun is that?
It's so much fun. And like, we were talking about, like, someone asked me like, you know, do you like being busy? Like, I don't. If you looked at my schedule, you would be like, you're really busy. And I don't really see it that way. Like, unless I'm like on a pointless Zoom meeting, like most of my life is like things I really enjoy doing. And that is one of the things I want to be able to pull out of people is that if you love it, like there is a path to where you can do more of it.
Oh yeah. I was just talking about this with a client today. She said the same thing, you know, busy, but I'm busy doing things that I don't really want to do.
Yeah.
And people tell me all the time, oh, you're so busy. And I'm like, I don't really feel like I work at all.
Yeah. On the best days, that's what it feels like.
I mean, I'm not kidding when I say Monday's the best day ever. You know, my day is filled with, I teach Pilates in the morning, I see clients in the afternoon, I teach Pilates in the evening, I do breathwork and meditation class after that. I mean, how much better can it be?
Yeah. You do the meditation at 10?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so for me, and I find myself, so I didn't used to be like this. I used to fight with time. I was late all the time, really late, like really disrespectfully late. And, you know, my boss used to joke, like, you owe me time in my life when I'm dead. So, but now I've like made friends with time. And sometimes, I mean, I have a lot going on, but there are moments when I'm like, wow, how did I create all this time? I have time to do what I want to do. And I'm kind of doing what I want to do most of the time anyway.
Yeah.
So I think when you're living your passion, it feels like that. It feels pretty good.
And I think it also feels like it's interesting because it's almost like time slows down, but because you feel like you have more to do. But when you're present, it feels like 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I'm pretty good at being present. Mm-hmm. So I lose time sometimes. But, you know, people see time, experience time different ways. That's one thing that we figure out, you know, in one of our first sessions. Is how do you see time?
Right.
And so people who are chronically late, you know, I can help you.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
But folks who lose track of time, have a really easy time being present, are also sometimes chronically late. And you can switch your timeline too. You can switch how you see and use time. Folks that are early to everything, super ultra scheduled, have a lot of calm and peace because they are so scheduled. They're not like rushing to everything like crazy people. They also sometimes takes more effort for them to be really present in the moment because they are thinking about what's coming ahead.
Yeah, that's definitely my case.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to be like, I'm here, but I got to do this and this and this, and then I'm not really here.
Right. So, and you can, depending on what you're doing, when people are like, what is your gift? And they're like, I don't know what my gift is. I'm like, okay, what do you lose time doing? What could you do? Or nothing else in the world matters. Yeah. You could do it for 8 hours and you'd be like, oh my gosh, it feels like 2 minutes. Like just what you were talking about. Yeah. And so, you know, I talk to my kids about this all the time. How can you figure out what that is? And then how can you use that to be of service, really? So you're filling yourself up by doing what you love to do. And then you're also offering it as a service to somebody else. And after that, like everything falls into place.
How do you push past that barrier of, you know, and this is one of the reasons I started this podcast is I want the person who wants to do this, but everyone in my life is unsupportive, or I don't have anybody, or you start doing the thing and you like, I remember the first time I ever stepped out to do something, like I was excited about it, but I was also like, I hope nobody shits on this idea because I'm scared of that. And so it was like, it took me a while to like break through. And so I don't know if it's like a muscle, but like, what would you say to or offer to the person that's like, I know I would just like kill it at this thing, but I've just got too much doubt, too many naysayers in my life.
Okay. So common. I would say that in order to, if you're in a relationship with a naysayer, and we've talked about this, it's crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
When you start to live your passion, when you start to do things that make you really, really happy, and if you've been in your comfort zone and you have relationships in that comfort zone, when you start to leave the comfort zone, you leave the pattern, you leave what's known, that's really scary for folks, especially if they've dealt with their own abandonment and rejection in the past. Those are going to be probably your biggest naysayers when you are leaving the zone. And unless they're, you know, have a high level of emotional intelligence, high level of, you know, confidence and centered and grounded, which I think all of us have struggled with at times.
Yeah, of course.
That's going to be really scary for them to see you ascend. And so when we start ascending, when we start getting closer to our highest self, our best self, the best version of us, when crabs are in a bucket, you know, one starts to crawl out, the rest of them pull them back down. Yep. So you see this all the time in health and fitness or even people who are trying to stop drinking. You're like, hey, I'm not drinking. Oh, come on, have a beer with me.
Just one.
Right. You know, they just want someone to share in their own comfort instead of, oh, that's so cool that you're, you know, okay, let's go on a hike instead. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you just have to be really aware of those folks in your life because they will try to pull you down. And then, you know, like why try to push up against that? So one of the things that we talk about in sessions is, so I need you to be aware of who they are.
Yep.
And I need you to have a boundary about like in the time that we're doing this deep work, I need you to not be around those folks.
Yeah. Right.
And I can help you communicate a boundary so that you can stay in relationship. Setting a boundary is like a gift to somebody. I had a really good friend tell me this one time. Creating a boundary is giving someone a roadmap to how to be in relationship with you. And so if they're dealing with their own past traumas of rejection and whatnot, it may trigger them if you're setting a boundary, but that's not your worry.
Right.
It's not to say you don't care, but you're not in control of that. That's their experience.
Right.
And so when you set a boundary, it is respectful to yourself. You're sending a message to the universe that you respect yourself, and so that's what you will get back. When you start to blur boundaries, that's when we start to feel. I've done that.
Yeah.
Saying yes, we don't really mean to say yes. People pleasing, all that stuff.
People pleasing, yeah.
Yeah. So that's when boundaries are not firm. It creates an unsafe environment. You become dysregulated. You start to feel resentful, and you're not giving your best authentic self. It's a waste of energy.
And like for me, like I definitely have like codependent tendencies, and like one of the things that's like really helpful for me, that's been really helpful for me, is that caretaking, people pleasing. It all comes back to like I feel responsible for you. I feel responsible for your feelings, and I just have to tell myself like that. To course correct behavior, like I have to be very like, it has to be very clear to me. And I just remind myself like, that's disrespectful of me to think that this adult cannot handle their own and manage their own feelings.
Yeah. Right.
And like, it's interesting, like setting boundaries for me. I was like, ugh. And then like I had a friend that like said something to me, and he was like, tried to make me feel guilty about something because I didn't want to participate in something. And I said, you're an adult. Like I'm sorry you feel that way. You're an adult. You have your own feelings.
Yeah.
You can have your own feelings about it. Like you can feel that way and I can feel a different way, and we can still be in relation together.
Exactly.
Like I don't need to take on however you're feeling.
Exactly. So you, like what you just said, you are responsible for your feelings. That's what you get to control.
Right.
You don't get to control his.
Right.
He doesn't get to control yours.
Right.
That's you have the response mechanism for that. And it's just so unfair to be in a relationship when you're cultivating resentment.
Yeah.
So that's a toxic relationship. And
yeah.
So, I don't think everybody understands that. I think sometimes when you set a boundary, that can be difficult for people to adhere to. And
setting a boundary isn't being a jerk about it.
No.
Yeah, it can be done in love, and most of the time it is done in love.
Yeah. And I can say, I see that you're feeling hurt or abandoned, rejected, whatever, but this allows me to be able to have a sustainable relationship with you, and that's important to me.
Right.
So for right now, this is what I need.
And I think that you touched on something I want to come back to, is I think when you talked about awareness, understanding, I think for most people, the core wound is rejection and abandonment. Mm-hmm. So knowing that that's most likely like what's showing up for the other person, like that helps.
Oh yeah.
And I think the other thing too, is that setting a boundary can be, one of the best things for me is just like disengaging. Like, hey, I hear what you're saying. I really appreciate that you're thinking about me or this thing in this way, but that's not really what I need right now. Or like, hey, I would really appreciate if we didn't talk about this certain topic anymore. Or because it's just like, there's certain things that just suck your energy. And a boundary can look like, I don't like the behavior. I don't like the topic. I don't like the discussion. But coming back to like the commonality of like, but we have all this other good stuff.
Right.
We can just set this thing aside, or that's not really one of our strengths. Let's play over here.
Absolutely. And I think people are afraid of setting boundaries because they think it will create conflict.
Yep. And they'll leave, which is abandonment and rejection.
Right.
Yeah.
And truly, I mean, depending on your level of safety, if sometimes sometimes setting a boundary can be avoidance.
Sure.
And that's okay if that's what's safest for you.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think safety is important, and communicating and knowing. Yeah, and it's going to be different. Every relational dynamic is different, but even taking ownership for like where you're at to communicate the boundary helps out a lot too.
Yes. And like you are responsible for maintaining the boundary. Even if you don't, you might have a boundary in your mind through your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions, and the other person just doesn't even know about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I say this all the time. Like, I'm not a mind reader. Like, I try to be very self-aware, but I can't see everything. I'm not a mind reader.
Right.
So if something I'm doing is bothering you or pissing you off or rubbing you the wrong way, like, so that's the irony, is that we think it'll push the other person away, but it almost brings in a different kind of understanding, and then the bond is deepened.
You said understanding. It brings in understanding.
Yeah, right.
So I think probably one of the biggest things that deteriorate relationships is misunderstandings based on poor communication.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think most relational issues come back to communication.
And then the root, though, is when we don't have an inherent feeling of self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
We don't feel worthy to say what we need. We don't feel worthy to set expectations.
Yeah.
We don't feel worthy enough to maintain and keep boundaries.
It's true. And I think like one of my favorite jokes is like, if you run into like one asshole, two assholes a day, like that's common. But if everyone's an asshole, like you might be the asshole.
Right.
So like,
yeah, I love that.
like, and I've definitely been in that place like, oh, I'm so mad and angry. And I'm like, dude, like, I'm just like in a different place. Or it's like seeing somebody struggling, it's like, something's got to be going on. Like that is one of the things that I am happy about like the last 2 years, is like, it's been more prevalent about like everyone's going through something, like be kind, like, you know, so yeah, I think that just trying to, again, be regulated. And like when I'm going to set a boundary, like I will preface it. Like, even if it's like, hey, I'm not really good about talking about this. It's really hard for me to talk about. This is really hard for me to say. And so I apologize if this isn't coming out as clearly as it could, but I just want you to understand this is where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And it would just make me feel a lot better if we could do it this way or do it that way. Does that work? And you can engage in a compromise of a boundary as well. Absolutely. So it's not just like dictatorship and it's my way or the highway, or like, you know, you're not looking for a way to like, oh, I can't wait for them to cross that boundary and cross them off. Like, that's not how boundaries work. That's not what they're about.
No, but I think that's also when we elicited your values. When
Yeah,
you get
right.
pretty clear about your values, then you know it's easier to communicate your boundaries. It's easier to teach people how they can and cannot be in relationship with
right.
you.
And I think it also increases your awareness of, like, for me, I'm just in a different place of seeing something that I may have ignored in the past, where it's like, I'm not even going to engage. Like we talked about, like, not settling. Like when you are in that place of authenticity and alignment, there's just certain people where it's like, I have a lot less problems because I'm not seeking them out unconsciously because I'm drifting. Like I know where I'm going.
Yeah, you're not seeking them out because, again, you're not trying to find closure or resolution for major negative emotions. So your energy is more focused.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's focused and it's intentional.
Yep.
And it's also accepting. You know, if something shows up, I need to see something or learn something in this moment, but I don't have to sit there and suffer.
No. So that's a practice.
Yeah, it is.
It's a practice of being aware. It's a practice of creating space before you attach to something. It's a practice of being a witness. If you can, you're gathering information. Oh, that was interesting. That's interesting. It's making me feel this way. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just create some space before I decide.
Yeah, I love that, the creating space. Like one of the best things, like if who's going to say no to, can I think about that? Can I take some time? I'm a little unclear. Would it be okay if I got back to you? I think that's how you avoid the people pleasing. That's how you avoid saying yes to the things that you don't. And sometimes it never comes back up,
Yep. I really want to be intentional and give this the time and energy
1,000%.
needs.
Yep.
So I need some time.
Which is great. Like I would so much rather someone say that than like say yes and then the whole experience is. Yeah.
It's not going to be, like you said, it's not going to have the gas behind, like full authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be wah, wah.
Totally. Yeah. Jessica, this has been wonderful. How can our audience find you?
Okay. So, my website's pretty easy. It's just jessicaotterlifecoach.com.
Cool.
I'm on Instagram, Jessica Otter LC.
Cool.
As in life coach.
Got it.
And I'm on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel.
Perfect.
If you are still COVID afraid, you can go on YouTube and get your workout on.
Awesome.
Those are pretty much the best ways. Yeah.
And then for the people local here in San Luis Obispo County, where can they find you if they want to get a workout in?
Ooh, so Mondays, best day ever.
Best day.
Mondays at 9 a.m. I am at Pure Yoga and Wellness.
In Atascadero.
In Atascadero.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I teach Inferno Hot Pilates, and
Awesome.
then we do a meditation and breath class afterwards. Totally optional. Always advocate for folks to stay there and practice that.
And those are streamed on Instagram, and they're in the archive of
most often.
of them. Yeah.
Not all of them. It's in person is amazing, but if you can get it live on Instagram, it's great too.
And you also have some meditations on your website, right?
I do. So I have some free meditations on my website. Morning meditation, chakra healing meditation. So meditation was definitely a little hurdle for me to get there. I wanted to be the kind of person that could meditate.
I think it's hard for a lot of people, but
yeah.
I look at it as like, if guided is what you need,
Yeah.
that's still better than nothing.
Oh heck yeah! So
Yeah.
I still enjoy guided meditation.
So do I.
Probably
It's my
do that
favorite.
the majority
Yeah.
of the time. Yeah.
When I'm like in thought, like it's usually with something else,
Mm-hmm.
and then that opens you up. It creates the muscle, and then you can be in quiet more often.
Totally. If I can meditate, anybody can. Come
yeah,
talk
like,
to me if you want to be
yeah.
the person that I'm telling you, meditation is like that personal pharmacopoeia
Mm-hmm.
of there's no drug out there. There's no pill you can take that creates serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin
Yep.
and endorphins and leukotrienes and it improves your mood, your metabolism, your immunity. There's just nothing out there.
And we're not
that can do
talking
that.
about 4 hours. You know, it could be as
No.
simple as
I can do 5 minutes. Totally shifts my energy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I am a huge advocate of that. And I'll be totally honest, I fall on and off the sustainable meditation practice. Sometimes I'm on my game, sometimes not as on my game.
And regardless of where you're at, it's coming back with, it's okay. It's okay. Don't bring yesterday into today.
Yeah.
We don't need to catch up. Just start
Just
over.
witness.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Huh.
Yeah. That
What
is
else
one.
is showing up?
Yeah. That's one of the biggest shifts for me is that I have made my peace that every single day I will do my best. That might look different day to day.
Oh, heck yeah.
But whatever it is, it's like, okay, yesterday was a C-, today was an A+. You know, whatever that looks like, but it's just like, I'm not bringing yesterday into today anymore.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
You're not living in the past.
No.
You are focused on where you are going. That is
Yeah.
what we do
Yeah.
in my practice.
I appreciate you so much. I just can't express how wonderful the experience. We wrapped up our session yesterday, and I told you I would have paid 5 times as much. And I am going to be looking for more ways for us to work together. And as this grand vision grows, it's like you have a firm spot of wherever this is going, which I'm sure you already know. Yeah. So I've got a big vision of what that looks like for the both of us. And I'm just so excited for what we're doing now, what we're doing the next time, being, champions of each other's causes and rooting for each other. And then just the people that are coming into my life that are in your wake, so to speak. It's so cool. Oh, and one more thing before we wrap up, I want to talk about the power of yet.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because the people that are in your world and your realm that have they caught me in it. Now I'm catching other people in it. And then I hear it. I'm like, yeah. So what is the power of yet?
I mean, when you hear a limiting belief, you start to recognize what they are, or it comes from lack, really. And someone will say, they have this belief. I'm not flexible. I can't do handstands. I can't do headstands. And I say, yet.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
What did we hear the one yesterday? I'm not flexible yet. I can't afford that yet. And by the way,
we don't say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do we say?
We say I'm choosing not to spend my money there.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm choosing to spend a heck of a lot of money on Jen Sincero. I think she says this in her book, You're a Badass. I'm choosing to spend my money on a lot of blessings already received.
Totally. Yeah.
AKA Phil.
And they're all blessing. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you. Anybody that's thinking about working with Jessica, free consult?
Oh yeah.
Complimentary consult.
Absolutely. For all your listeners, you can jump on my website and I definitely offer a free 30-minute consult. Let's just see what do you need? How can I support you?
Is that phone call, Zoom?
Depends. If you're local, in person.
Okay.
Usually the consults though are via Zoom.
Okay.
And then if you're local, our sessions are in person. And I have clients down Southern California, I've got clients on the East Coast, and it's Zoom. It's
just as effective.
Yep. Absolutely. Potent as hell.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jessica. I really appreciate you. We're going to do this again in the future. Yeah. Everybody that tuned in, I'm so thankful that you're here. Hopefully that this is the type of encouragement that you need so that we're living a life that's worthy of being on Cinemax, whatever that means to you. So thank you very much. We'll see you at the next episode, and find us on all the socials, and we'll see you soon.
The way you been on me, you're making me panic. The way you been on me, don't make it a habit. It's reaching for passion and addiction. Give me a job, I give her the business. See what she saw, be quiet regardless. Keep leading me on, cause your body is flawless, girl. She be calling up, I be hanging up. She be balling, I do it to make her nuts. Yeah, she love me, but baby, it ain't enough. I keep fucking the friends just to shake it up. Find a better man, leave me jettison. Dating the devil's a hell of a medicine. She like never that, I can never leave. It's confusing, but here's what she said to me. All I ever wanna do is spend the rest of time with you. It takes a special kind of fool to spend the rest of time with you. All I ever wanna do is spend the rest of time with you. It takes a special kind of fool to spend the rest of time with you.
Girl, I'm too good, something you shouldn't want. You didn't listen, now you're slipping and caught. I'm stuck in my old ways, but you cannot stop. Hugs in the hallway and feel your heart drop. I open the door for you, run to the store for you, make some good grub for you. Chivalry's overdue, working so hard for you, writing a song for you, making good love to you. I'm coming through, I'm the nicest of nice. Cover the sun, have the nicest of nights. Shopping mall runs, no matter the price. We'll always have fun, ignoring the fights. You'll always be right, I'll always be wrong. Keeping it light, never headstrong. You'll be alright, you just need to move on. Turn on that mic and hear you sing along like